Alright, it's Highguard MMA back with another video. Today we're going to be breaking down UFC 329 International Fight Week, Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway 2. The Mac is back. Let's get right into it. Starting off the early prelims, we got the curtain jerker opening up the card. We have flyweights. We got Cody Durden versus Alessandro Costa. Alessandro Costa is a late replacement, by the way, for Ode Osborne. He got injured, I believe it was about 2 weeks ago. But Cody Durden is 18-10-1 overall, 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He recently snapped a 4-fight losing streak in April by getting a dominant unanimous decision win over Rafael Filo. Durden relies heavily on his wrestling and his pressure. He looks to take you down, make it grimy, make it an ugly fight. So look for him to try to take down Costa over and over again and just try to hold him there. But Costa is 16-5 overall. He's 3-2 in his last 5. He's got a lot of momentum coming in this fight, coming off back-to-back KO wins over Stuart Nickel in April, and he KO'd Matt Schnell a few weeks ago in June. But he's very strong with defensive grappling. He's got a BJJ black belt, so look for him to kind of nullify Durden's wrestling there. I'll make this one quick. My prediction here, I'm going Alessandro Costa by TKO. I think his movement, his grappling, and his counters will likely get Durden out of there before the final bell. I don't think Cody Durden's going to look to stand, obviously, and bang with this guy, so I think he's going to look to chain wrestle and grind it out on the ground, but I don't think that'll be enough to win this fight. I think he's going to end up getting caught by Costa here. Moving up, next up on the card, we got middleweights. We got Ryan Gondra versus Zachary Reese. Ryan Gondra is 9-1 overall in his career, 1-0 in the UFC. He made his UFC debut in February in Mexico City this year. He got a nasty 40-second KO over Jose Medina. He's a slight step up in competition for him here, as he's currently riding an 8-fight winning streak overall in his career. 7 of those are finishes. 6 of them are in the first round. So we'll see. But Zachary Reese, on the other hand, he's 10-3 overall. He's 2-2-1 in his last 5 fights. Zachary Reese is, pretty decent size advantage here. He's 6'4" with a 77-inch reach, compared to Gondra being 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. Will that matter in this fight? I don't know. We'll see. Reese has, definitely faced tougher opponents in his career, in his UFC stint so far, but he's yet to beat anybody that's, any better than him. My prediction here, I'm going Ryan Gondra by early TKO. On to the next fight on the card. We got more middleweights. This one's going to be good. We got Damian Pinais versus Cesar Almeida. Damian Pinais is 9-1 in his career, 1-0 in the UFC. All of his wins are coming by finish in the first or second round. He made his debut this year in February against Wes Schultz, and he KO'd him in the first round too. Pinais goes by the Baba Yaga. I don't really know what that means, but he's a 24-year-old kid from Aruba, standing at 6'1" with almost an 80-inch reach. He's super fast starter, super rangy, long and heavy combos. He lands about 7.5 significant strikes per minute, which is pretty crazy. I think he has the age advantage in this fight also. There's a 14-year age gap. I think that's going to be a big factor in this fight. Moving on to his opponent, Cesar Almeida is 7-2 overall in his career, 3-2 in the UFC. He's 38 years old. He's a highly decorated kickboxer who actually has a win over his now training partner, Alex Pereira, in kickboxing. He's got legit knockout power. He's looking to bounce back after a decision loss to Cezary Olszejczyk, which is Mikhail Olszejczyk's brother. That was in December. Though this fight will likely play out on the feet, it's worth noting that Cesar Almeida struggles, against heavy pressure and wrestling. So I think he'll struggle with the speed and length of Damian Pinais here. So I think, this one's probably going to be over fairly quick. My prediction here, I'm going Damian Pinais by TKO. Although Cesar Almeida is, world-class kickboxer, he's been around the world, he's a really, really talented guy. But I think the age gap, the reach advantage, is going to be a major factor here. I think Pinais is going to come out fast and put away Cesar Almeida early, likely in the first round. All right, we got the last fight on the early prelims, and we got the lone women's fight on the card. We got women's flyweights. We got number 8, Tracy Cortez versus number 12, Wong Kong. Tracy Cortez is 12-3 overall, 3-2 in her last 5. She most recently got submitted by Erin Blanchfield in November of last year, but she relies heavily on her wrestling. She focuses on controlling people on the ground and against the cage, but she's got a pretty good chin. She's never been knocked out. But she's got decent boxing as well that sets up her takedowns very nicely. But Wong Kong is 9-1 overall, 4-1 in her last 5. She most recently won a decision over Eduarda Mora in February, fight which she did miss weight, by the way. And I think the weight has been an issue for Wong Kong, but we'll see. She's also always looking for a finish. She's super exciting. She likes to keep it standing, likes to kickbox and do Muay Thai with people. So look for her to try to put it on Tracy Cortez and get her out of there, But my prediction here, I'm going Tracy Cortez by decision, actually. I believe she's going to wrestle and grapple her way to victory. I think this might be a pretty boring fight, if I'm being honest. Just because I don't think Tracy Cortez wants to get knocked out. I don't think she wants to get, knocked down. I don't think she wants to get in an ugly fight. I think she'll stand and box with her for a little bit just to make it interesting, but I think ultimately she's going to look to take her down and control the fight. Moving on to the prelims, we have an absolute banger at featherweight here. We got Luke Riley versus Kai Kamaka III. Luke Riley's 13-0 in his career, 2-0 in the UFC. He KO'd Bogdan Grad in his debut last November. And then most recently, he won a decision over Michael Aswell in March. Luke Riley's undefeated, like I said. He's very, very talented prospect out of Liverpool. He trains with Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. He's young in his career, obviously. He's elite, super technical striker. He lands about 6 significant strikes per minute, which is pretty good, and at a 60% rate, which is crazy. He's got a very good jab and very strong leg kicks as well. Luke Riley has a very interesting karate kind of stance. He's got very good footwork. He's very defensively sound. He does a good job of making guys miss when they try to push the pace on him. He's very good, making dodging and all these punches and kicks, and he's good, really good head movement. Moving on to his opponent, Kai Kamaka is 18-7-1 in his career. This is his second stint in the UFC, actually. He made his return earlier this year with a split decision win over Dakota Hope in April. But Kamaka is always going forward. He's nasty on the inside in the pocket with his boxing. He tends to leave his chin open when he's pressing forward and throwing. He actually absorbs 5.5 strikes per minute, so that's looking pretty good for Luke Riley, you know what I mean? So as he lands 6 per minute, this guy takes 5.5 per minute. So, but he's got decent wrestling as well. He might look to change levels here and get Riley against the cage if he starts getting touched up and doesn't really like what's going on the feet. Look, he could possibly look to take Luke Riley down, but we'll see, right? My prediction here, I'm going Luke Riley by decision. Moving up the card, we got a bantamweight barn burner on our hands. We got Cody Garbrandt versus Adrian Yanez. Cody Garbrandt's 15-7 in his career, former champion. Obviously, we all know he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. In his last fight, he won a decision over Long Zhao in March. It was a very weird fight. I believe he got like a groin shot and it was throwing up, and they took 2 points. It was a weird fight. But Cody Garbrandt's always been a fast starter. He likes to get into the firefights early on. He's still got very, very good boxing. Power in his hands, very good head movement defensively as well. But people forget that he's an All-American wrestler as well. But he rarely uses it offensively. He's got very good takedown defense, though. He defends about 81% of takedowns in his career, which is pretty damn good. Moving on to his opponent, Adrian Yanez. He's 17-6-1 overall, 1-3-1 in his last 5 fights. He most recently went to a draw with Ricky Simone in March this year. I believe that one was in Seattle. And in 2 of the 3 losses that he had, he got knocked out. So he's kind of in a rough spot here. So this is kind of a must-win for him. I think it's honestly a must-win for Cody Garbrandt too. But Yanez is very disciplined counter boxer who lands about 6 significant strikes per minute. He relies on the crisp 1-2s while he's going forward. He's looking to back you up against the cage and just put it on you. In this fight, he's got a 5-inch reach advantage, which is pretty crazy at bantamweight, and he'll look to use it for sure. I think for Yanez to keep Garbrandt at bay with his jabs, or he's gonna look to keep Garbrandt at bay with his jabs. I'm sorry, but also throw some check hooks when Cody Garbrandt rushes in and tries to start a brawl. But I just think this fight might end pretty ugly either way. But my prediction here, I'm going Adrian Yanez by TKO. Moving on, we got heavyweights. We have the highly anticipated UFC debut of Olympic gold medalist Gable Stevenson, and he will be taking on Elijah Ellison. Gable Stevenson is a 2020 Olympic freestyle wrestling gold medalist and a 2-time NCAA champion. But now he's 3-0 in his only 3-0 in his MMA career. I had to read that again, like holy shit. And they're all first-round TKOs. He hasn't fought anybody of relevance or anybody good. He's fought a bunch of fucking cans. In MMA so far, his wrestling has translated very well, though. He's been able to use his top control in the moments he's been able to get to it when he's, had to, I guess. But after transitioning to MMA under the mentorship of legend John Jones, I think his striking and just overall MMA game is only going to get better, right? But I've watched the short amount of film that there is, from those three fights, and there's nothing really impressive to me. He's fought guys that look like they'd never been in a fight before, so only time will tell. But I think he's got so much potential with his wrestling background, and just obviously being under John Jones as well is going to help, but only time will tell, like I said. So moving on to his opponent, Elijah Ellison. He's 5-2 in his career, 0-1 in the UFC. Last year, he made his debut against Brando Pericic and got TKO'd in the first round. So Ellison's looking to get his first UFC W and spoil the debut of Gable. But I think his best chance here is to just catch Gable with a random punch in some kind of weird exchange and just try to catch him, I guess. But this just kind of feels like they were trying to give Gable Stevenson a big platform to get his first UFC win in his debut. So good for him. My prediction here, I got Gable Stevenson by TKO. I believe this is a layup, like I said, and the UFC just want to get him in the door and get him a win. I think he might exchange with this guy for a little bit, but ultimately I think he's going to take him down and get an early stoppage. On to the featured prelim. We got light heavyweights now. We got Robert Whittaker. That's right, you heard that right. Robert Whittaker versus number 12 Nikita Krylov. Making his debut at light heavyweight, Robert Whittaker is coming into this fight 26-9 overall, 2-3 in his last 5. He most recently lost a split decision to Reinier de Ridder in July of last year, who also moved up to light heavyweight. But Robert Whittaker's got a very, very unique karate style as well. He lands a very nice 4.5 significant strikes per minute, which he's got a very nice jab as well and a very nice rear high kick, which keeps guys backing up against the fence, which is right where he wants you to be. If you remember his fight against Ikram Aliskerov, he definitely did it to him. He backed him up against the cage with just heavy pressure and then ended up throwing a crazy head kick and TKO the guy. But he's also very hard to take down and hold down, unless you're Khamzat Chimaev, of course. But in his career, he's defended 82% of the takedowns that have come his way. He forces guys that are trying to grapple with him to exhaust themselves and just push him against the cage, and he's fine there. He's good there, with his back against the cage. He's good there. He's comfortable there, But his opponent, Nikita Krylov, is 31-11 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. He most recently had a TKO win over Modestas Bukauskas in January. Krylov's got a pretty decent height and reach advantage over Whittaker here. He's 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. He's really good at throwing heavy body kicks. Very good straight right hand. He also lands 4.5 significant strikes per minute. So we might be in for a very nice fight here, folks. He also averages about 2 takedowns and 1 submission attempt per 15 minutes, which I don't really know if that's going to be of any significance here, but you never know, right? Because, obviously Nikita Krylov is not Khamzat Chimaev, so I don't even know if his wrestling will matter here, but he's got great top control. He's always looking for a submission when he's on top, and he's got 16 career submissions, which is, of note as well. But my prediction here, I'm going Robert Whittaker by decision. I think him moving up to 205 is going to be great for his career. Definitely going to extend his career longer than it would have been staying at 85. But I don't see him tiring out in this fight. I think his takedown defense is going to keep the fight standing, and I just think his speed is overall his game is just going to be so much better than Krylov's, and I think that'll make the difference in this fight, and that'll carry Robert Whittaker to his first win at light heavyweight. And on to the main card, folks. We got an absolute banger to open up the main card. We got King Green versus Terrence McKinney. Don't blink in this fight, I promise. King Green is 35-17 overall, currently on a 3-fight winning streak, by the way. A split decision win over Lance Gibson Jr. in December. He KO'd Daniel Zellhuber in February, and then in May, he submitted Jeremy Stephens. So he's just decision, KO, submission. Whatever you need, King Green's got it. You know what I'm saying? But King Green, he's got very unorthodox style. We're all familiar with it, hands down, talking shit. But when he is defending, he's got that very nice, interesting Philly shell. But he lands about 6.5 significant strikes per minute, which is a big, big deal here. Having his hands down and slipping and moving has been his downfall at times, and it's led to him getting caught. We've seen it happen a few times, right? But even though he's 39, he's looked better than ever as of late with his power in his hands, slick grappling, and he's got over 5 hours of octagon time in the UFC, which proves that his cardio is just up to par. If the fight goes beyond the first round, which is unlikely here, but you never know. But Terrence McKinney, 18-8 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. Most recently, he had a 22nd KO win over Kyle Nelson. Terrence McKinney's very chaotic, very fast starter. He's got a 100% finishing rate. In his 18 wins, he's got 9 KOs and 9 submissions, which is absolutely crazy. And win or loss, he's never been to a decision, and he's only been out of the first round twice in his whole entire UFC career, and that was in the second, and it just went to the second round and then ended in the second round, which again, crazy. Besides having power in his hands and his kicks, he also has a very good wrestling game. He averages about 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, which doesn't really mean a whole lot considering his fights don't even go past 3 or 4 minutes. So I don't really think him having decent wrestling will matter as much in this fight. He always says, "Oh, I'm gonna go in and wrestle and I'm gonna fight smarter," but that shit's not happening. There's been a lot of bad blood in this build up for this fight. I guess they were friends, and Terrence McKinney accepted the fight, and King Green didn't like that he accepted the fight, so he's like, "Fuck that, I'm gonna beat his ass." So we're here. My prediction, I got King Green by TKO. Like I said, there's been bad blood in the build-up. This one could get over very quickly. Terrence McKinney's best chance is to catch King Green in the first round. And I think if King Green can stay clear of the chaos and storm of the first minute of this fight, I think he will win this fight fairly easy. Up next, we got flyweights. We got number 4 Brandon Royval versus number 6 Lonnie Kavanaugh. Brandon Royval is 17-9 overall, is currently on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost the decision to the current champion Joshua Van in June of last year. And then in December, he got KO'd in the first round by Manel Kape, who just recently KO'd Kyoji Horiguchi in their rematch. Royval relies on a frenetic southpaw redo. Up next, we got flyweights. We got number 4 Brandon Royval versus number 6 Lonnie Kavanaugh. Brandon Royval is 17-9 overall, currently on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost the decision to the current champion Joshua Van in June of last year. And then he got KO'd in the first round by Manel Kape in December. He relies on a frenetic southpaw pace. He throws about, 5.5 significant strikes per minute, which is crazy. He utilizes, his long reach, flying knees, spinning back fists, and he's got he's got a long reach, a 68-inch reach at flyweight. To create, crazy, defensive scrambles. However, his high-risk style leaves him vulnerable in the pocket. As I said, he got KO'd by Manel Kape in the first round in December. But my guy Raw Dog is aggressive, looking for submissions as well. More than half of his wins in his career came by submission. He doesn't look for wrestling, though. He would rather use slick transitions on the ground to, just snatch up a submission right away. He's not looking to hold you and control you, But moving on to his opponent, Lonnie Kavanaugh is 10-1 in his career, 3-1 in his UFC stint so far, and most recently won a decision over former champion Brandon Moreno in February. Kavanaugh is a very technical, explosive boxer who lands about 4 significant strikes per minute at a 50% accuracy rate, which is damn near decent, He thrives inside the pocket by ducking underneath long punches and firing back with devastating counters. We've seen him put people down. But we've also seen him get put down pretty damn bad against Charles Johnson. I don't want to forget that either. But he's got very good takedown defense, very good sprawls. He would definitely prefer to keep the fight standing, and he forces brawls after sprawling with people. So he'll stuff a takedown and immediately just get right on your ass and start throwing punches, But my prediction here, I got Lonnie Kavanaugh by decision. All right, we got the featured bout on the main card. We have a rematch at bantamweight versus number 4 Corey Sandhagen versus number 7 Mario Bautista. Corey Sandhagen's 18-6 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. He most recently lost the title fight to Merab in October of last year. But he's got very, very unique movement, very, very weird in the cage, but he lands about 5 significant strikes per minute. He throws a lot of flying knees, spinning back kicks. He's got a 70-inch reach at bantamweight, which is crazy. And he picks guys apart from the outside, with leg kicks and jabs too. He's just absolutely nasty. But he's got insane cardio. He's built to fight 25 minutes. But he rarely, loses his gas tank in the fight too. So he's ready to go from start to finish. Moving on to his opponent, Mario Bautista is 17-3 overall, 4-1 in his last 5. He most recently won via rear naked choke in February against Vinicius Oliveira, who just moved up to 145, I believe. And Mario Bautista likes to press forward, utilize a lot of volume. He lands about 5.5 significant strikes per minute at a 50% rate accuracy rate. He's very good in the pocket. He likes to trap guys against the fence where he can just load up on hooks and short elbows, and just really just piece you up and just cut you up against the cage. Outside of his boxing, he's a very, very good wrestler, and he does not run away from going to the ground. He actively hunts for quick back takes and chokes during scrambles, but I would say he would prefer to keep it standing. I wouldn't say he prefers to get on the ground and do some jiu-jitsu and wrestle, but he doesn't mind it if the opportunity presents itself. My prediction here, though, I'm going Corey Sandhagen by decision. I think Bautista's best chance to win this fight is to try to overwhelm Corey Sandhagen with volume and just look to try to drown him, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Corey Sandhagen's footwork and how responsible he is defensively, along with his reach, is going to make it hard for Mario to do that. So, like I said, I got Corey Sandhagen taking the rematch. He won the first fight by submission a few years ago, but I got Corey Sandhagen by decision. All right, folks, we got the co-main event. We got a banger at lightweight. We got number 5 Benoit Saint Denis versus number 6 Paddy Pimblett. Benoit Saint Denis is 17-3 overall. He's on a 4-fight winning streak currently. Most recently, he had a TKO win over Dan Hooker in January. The God of War. Very aggressive, wrestle-first approach. He averages about 4 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's got heavy pressure with his top game from half guard, and he likes to completely flatten you out and then wear you down before he snatches up a submission. I believe he did that against Mauricio Hufi. On the feet, though, he lands about 5.5 significant strikes per minute, and he looks to force like chaotic, just crazy firefights and crazy exchanges where he's just looking to who can land the hardest first, And this fight, I feel like that could be something that's going to happen here. But Paddy Pimblett, on the other hand, 23-4 overall, 4-1 in his last 5. He most recently lost a decision to Justin Gaethje for the interim title in January. Paddy Pimblett's very dangerous submissions. He's very dangerous with his submissions. While he lacks a traditional wrestling background, he possesses, lightning fast back takes. As soon as he gets you down to the ground, he's looking to snatch up your back. He's looking to snatch up an arm, a leg, something, But every time he goes to the ground, he is extremely dangerous. Paddy the Baddy lands about 7 significant strikes per minute. He relies heavily on his lead jab, his looping overhand rights. However, his habit of keeping his chin up in the air he's vulnerable to get caught, you know what I mean? And he's never been caught before, and I know Scousers don't get knocked out and all this shit that he says, but I think that could be a problem in this fight. Him always, leaning back with his chin up, and I don't know. I think that's going to be a problem here. So, with that being said, my prediction, I got Benoit Saint Denis by TKO. I think Paddy's best chance to win is forcing BSD into a weird grappling exchange and snatching up a submission. However, I think just BSD, his wrestling fundamentals, and just how chaotic he can be on the feet will win him this fight, and I think he will be the first man to put Paddy the Baddy down. Oh my goodness. We have the main event, folks. We have an absolutely massive fight at welterweight, by the way, and it's a rematch. 13 years in the making. We have the return of the notorious Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway. Conor McGregor is 22-6 overall in his career, and he's officially back. He's coming off a 5-year layoff in his last fight in 2021 against Dustin Poirier. He had a very, very, very bad injury where his leg basically just snapped in half. But Conor McGregor builds his entire game around that left hand. And he relies on distance management, pulling guys in, and just absolutely starching people out. As I mentioned, he's been away from the game for 5 years, but his single one-shot power is just still, remains a highly, highly dangerous factor early on in the fight. But he operates with a highly explosive, energy-expensive mechanics where he's landing about 5.5 significant strikes per minute at a 50% accuracy rate, which is very, very good. However, his pace usually drops off heavily after the first round. I would say first round and a half. And historically, his takedown defense gets exploited later on in the fight because, if he's not getting you out of there early, he gets tired. The takedown defense gets lazy, all that, right? But, and he can get fatigued against the cage, but I don't really see. Moving on to his opponent, Max Holloway. He's 27-9 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. Most recently lost the decision and his BMF belt to Charles Oliveira in March. But he's moving up to welterweight for the first time in his career. He adjusted his camp a lot, obviously had to get a lot of new guys in there. For example, he had a 170-pounder and former champion Jack Della Maddalena. But his legendary chin is going to allow him to absorb a lot of strikes in this fight, I believe, without backing down. And now, without a weight cut, I think that's going to help even more. But the blessed one is an elite cardio machine. He holds the UFC record for significant strikes landed. For strikes landed, averaging about 7 significant strikes per minute. He uses his lead jab. It's very sharp, long combinations, stabbing side kicks to systematically break people down over the course of the 5 rounds. In addition to no weight cut helping him with the chin, I also think it's going to help him with the power in his hands too. We saw him knock out Justin Gaethje at 155, and he used to be at 145 his whole career, then now he's at 170, so he's really not cutting that much weight. All right, so my prediction here, I'm going Conor McGregor by TKO. I think Conor's going to end up finding that left hand and come back with a spectacular finish before the fight ends. Obviously, it's likely going to be early in the fight. However, if the fight goes past the second round, we could see a much different result here if Max Holloway, stays on the gas and doesn't get KO'd. But man, I got Conor McGregor by TKO. The Mac is back, baby.